Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. My name is John Gulla. Here in the metaphorical booth with me is Will Hookinga, and we are tag teaming this podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. And speaking of tag teams, Will, today we're pretty excited to have two really well-known, you might say, Rumcast veterans and rum people, but we've never had them on at the same time.
I know.
So stay tuned, everyone, for Mr. Ian Burrell, the Global Rum Ambassador himself, and Richard Seale of Foursquare Rum, neither of which really need much introduction, I think. So lots of subjects that we're going to get to go over with them, Will, but since they are a little maybe surprisey,
surprisey?
Maybe, Will, I'll leave it there and ask you how things are going over.
A little breaking newsy, I guess we could say.
I can say that, yeah. So how's things going over there for you?
Things are good. You know, I'm excited for this episode. Like you said, we don't want to reveal too much. It is going to be a two-parter, which we knew having both Ian Burrell and Richard Seale at the same time, we had a feeling that the conversation might end up going a little long, and we were not disappointed. And we got to so much good stuff that, you know, sometimes if you put out an episode that's like 2.5 or 3 hours long, it's like some stuff that's in there just inevitably gets buried. So we thought, let's make it 2 episodes. We've got one. This one that has some of the interesting new stuff in it, you know, going on, and then the other, we'll you know, later in the intro, we'll elaborate on kind of what's to come. But I'm really excited for people to hear this stuff because we learned a ton of new things that those two are up to.
Yeah, and speaking of excitement, Will, I can barely contain my excitement right now for something. It's not really rum-related, but, you know, sometimes stuff is just happening and ekes into every part of your life, and this is going to eke into this right now, which is, I think...
It can't be contained.
It cannot be contained. I am a very, very big fan of the show Firefly or the movie Serenity back in 2005.
You are?
Yes, I'm a huge, ridiculously large fan. In fact, I told you, Will.
I've never heard you talk about it.
My first podcasting experience ever was doing stuff.
Man. I'm joking. Obviously, I know you're a huge fan.
You had me going. I was like, of course you did. We've talked about this. But yeah, anyways, there's been some posts recently about Nathan Fillion, who's the star of the show, and he's kind of given these little Instagram reels with different stars of the show saying, hey...
He's starting a rum company.
It's time. Yeah, that would be great. And we were having him on the podcast.
I thought since you were bringing it up on the rum podcast that maybe it had something to do with rum, but I guess as you said, you're so excited. It's just seeping into the podcast now.
Literally zero to do with rum to my knowledge. However, I'm excited because I may be going to the DC Comic Con festival. I think it's called Awesome Con, where the entire cast is going to be getting together. And, you know, hopefully I'll be able to visit some of our best places for rum there, like the Green Zone and some others. So I'm excited to be doing that soon.
That's pretty... I think you should try to plan a Rumcast-centric event and get the stars from your beloved television series to make an appearance at it and bring these worlds together.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll try to ask a rum-centric question to the panel and see if it just all folds together. Maybe we could do it. But
if you're listening and you have any ideas for questions that that John could shoehorn into an audience Q&A at a Comic-Con event with the cast of Firefly, send those in to host at rumcast.com. That's HOST at rumcast.com. We'd love to hear your ideas. Let's make this happen.
I know I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one out there, so definitely send it in. But, Will, it also got me thinking rum-wise, right? This is a show that hasn't been around for 20 years. So if it is resurrected somehow, then I was thinking, like, for rum, what would be a rum that we would want to resurrect that is no longer available that would be kind of like our pick to bring back?
That's fun.
I don't know if you have thoughts on this. I, of course, have at least one thought.
I'm, you know, just hearing. I've got to think about this a little bit. But what did you have a rum that immediately came to mind? If you could resurrect it, what would it be?
I do, and it's a little bit of a loaded question because it all ties together here. But, so I think it's still up on our website where our favorite rums of all time, we posted on there when we started this show.
Oh, wow. I've got to go back and check that.
Yeah. It might have changed.
Yeah.
Well, mine, I don't know if it's changed, or maybe if it has, this is still in the top tier, and that is Foursquare 2005, appropriately enough.
Wow.
My favorite rum of all time, and I would love to be able to resurrect that bottle. And guess what, Will? I just happened to come upon, well, really it didn't happen like that. Someone reached out to me in the rum world that happened to come upon a bottle and had a bottle that I could procure.
Foursquare 2005 in the wild?
Yes!
Wow.
So guess what?
You've
I
got another
procured
bottle
it.
coming? Wow.
I have the legendary Foursquare 2005. A full bottle has been resurrected for me. And you know what that means, Will? It's fate. It's time.
What, to open the bottle?
Well, not only to have that bottle to open the bottle, but then Firefly's going to come back too. It all works together.
So you shouldn't open it until the premiere of the Firefly reboot, and you can make it a whole thing. You can crack open the Foursquare 2005. You can have a whole party. It'll be a thing.
Actually, that is very appropriate. I'm going to do that. Good suggestion. All right, what about you? What is your?
Well, the bottles that came to mind first when you threw this out there were the Hamilton St. Lucia bottlings, the single casks that Ed Hamilton did from St. Lucia Distillers. I don't, maybe those came out around like 2019, 2018,
but there's
sometime
different
around
ones,
there.
right? Isn't there the 7, the 8, and the 9 year?
Yeah, there's different ones, and I can never remember like I've had various samples of these over the years, which is part of why I want to bring this resurrect these bottles, is because I've never actually happened upon one in the wild, and still to this day, like every now and then someone will find some somehow at some store, and they'll be like, look, they've still got a few, and I'm like, how does this never happen to me? Why can't anything good ever happen to me?
I have a theory. Theory that those bottles are still out in the wild somewhere collecting dust because they look like crappy bottles.
Oh, we don't have to do this right now, John.
No,
This isn't
but
what
they
it's
do.
about. This isn't what it's about. Come on, don't be a snob right now. Let me enjoy these rums.
They're great rums. They're awesome. They're good. But that bottle label.
I can never remember like which one I like the most. I've tried all of them through samples over the years. So that's why I'm just saying, like, just bring them all back for good measure. I'm going to do that because I can't pick one because I never remember which one I like the most. But those came to mind. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And if you could ABC it between those three, that'd be even better. So that would be awesome. Good pick. Good pick. Neither of us picked Jamaican rum, which I know there's plenty out there that we could think about, but it feels like there's also a lot of really good options even now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe part of it is just because we get great output from St. Lucia Distillers now, but it also it feels like something different because they like don't sell to IBs anymore or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something special about those bottles. They have like sentimental value for me because they remind me of when I was kind of early on in my rum journey. I guess probably somewhat like Foursquare 2005 for you. Yeah, that's probably what I would pick. But we have new rum matters to discuss in our conversation with Richard Seale and Ian Burrell. Part of the impetus for this interview, there were a number of things we wanted to discuss. It had just been a while since we'd had either of them on the podcast, and they're constantly both up to new things. There'd been lots of buzz about the possible ending of the Exceptional Cask Selection series. 2005 was part of that series.
Yep.
So, we kind of had wanted to talk to Richard for a while about what's next, and we do discuss some of that. But we also, heard that he and Ian were up to something new together. So without spoiling anything about that, we discussed that with them as well, which we'll get into in this episode. And we also had a lengthy discussion about ongoing developments with the Jamaica Rum GI kind of battle that's playing out in the court system right now. That's something we discussed with both of them in the past, and also with Christopher Gentles from the Spirits Pool Association. I want to say at the end of 2024 we did that. So there's supposed to be some updates coming out of that situation soon. I think we're gonna have that discussion in our part 2 of this episode, which we'll release in the following week. And this week's will be kind of focused on what Ian and Richard are up to and what's new. So it was super exciting for us to learn about this, and I'm looking forward to other people learning about it as well.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about rum blends, and interestingly, there's also a people blend. I don't know if there's a better way to say that, but there, that having the two of them be able to talk together is also a pretty special occasion. And as you mentioned, a lot of things that they're maybe working on together we get to talk about, but even just talking about subjects that are something to do with rum or rum history, and getting to hear both of them weigh in on that at once is really a special thing. So it's a good episode. Really excited.
All right, well, on that note, we will take a quick break and get right on over to the interview. All right, so we are here with Ian Burrell and Richard Seale, who have both been on the show twice before. I went back and counted, but never at the same time. So I think it's a very big day for the Rumcast. I was about to come upstairs to record, and my wife asked, who are you guys interviewing? And I said Richard Seale and Ian Burrell, and she said, "Oh, classic." And I felt that was a very good descriptor, very good one-word descriptor. So welcome back to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
My pleasure.
you both have, I know you have a lot of projects going on. There's a lot we want to talk about today, but the most pressing question for me going into this was, Ian, I know you were in Barbados recently. Richard, while we were exchanging emails, setting this up, you mentioned that there's a new project the two of you are working on. What's going on with that? What can you share with the people?
Oh, yeah, I think I'd have to let the man
Where
behind
do you go?
the curtain.
Go, you know, Ian.
Let the wizard talk about it. I'll be the
The man behind the curtain?
So, as you know, we did the project on Equiano, which was something Ian had approached me one day and basically said, would you do rum? And that morphed into a very big project, which unfortunately that's a whole other podcast for that one.
a whole other podcast there.
But
we have so much to talk about today that I don't even have Equiano in the outline. So yeah.
But we were always talking about, Ian had another idea, very different. And so we had talked about this for a long time, but of course when Equiano sort of came along, we got distracted with that, and so when the whole Equiano, can you hear my dogs yet?
No.
just a little bit, but it's very faint in the background. It's a nice touch.
So yeah, when that came on, I literally said to Ian, "Let's do our other one." And
Your one door closes.
Nobody else.
Making lemonade out of lemons. Yeah,
There
just
you
the
go.
two of you now.
Yeah, the original one did start out with the two of us, and I guess that's where we went wrong. So that was the idea, and basically what it was born on is doing a liqueur.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And Ian, it was very much, I can't even remember who came up with the liqueur plan, but it was very much Ian's idea we're going to do a grapefruit liqueur.
Grapefruit. Okay.
Yes. But, again, particularly interesting for us because maybe not so well known, but the grapefruit originated in Barbados, and it's the only citrus. Again, there may be more citrus, they are more citrus experts than me, but as far as I know, it's the only citrus that originates outside of Asia.
This is actually, it's making a lot of sense because yesterday I was scrolling through your Facebook feed, actually, or not your feed, but your posts, Richard, to make sure I hadn't missed anything recently. And I didn't read the whole post because I was, trying to get through everything, but I saw something about grapefruits in Barbados and going back in history, and I was like,
grapefruit.
yeah, I was like, Richard's got all this, he's doing all the rum research. He's also finding time to do grapefruits. I wonder why. And now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Planting the seeds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Literally.
So as I say, it was really a coming together. As I say, I didn't think of grapefruit at all. That was ironically because it is Barbados, but Ian really coming from wearing his bartender hat, saw the grapefruit opportunity. And I think a little bit, we wanted to do liqueur because I always we both, we preach the idea, there's nothing wrong with making a liqueur. Just be bold and upfront and say you make a liqueur.
Right.
There's a long history of rum, liqueurs and rum, rum orange and spiced rum today has a completely different life to the history. We won't even get into that one. But there's a long history of that, and of course some people try to conflate that and say, well, you've been doing stuff to rum, but yeah, nobody in the past would sweeten the rum and then tell you that they were selling you a rum. And there's a long history of cordials and so many of them disappear because, of course, as in the 20th century, as the West Indian Islands became more developed and we became more wealthier, we buy imported things.
Right.
And sort of lost today. I think you guys know. My history in rum is from my great grandfather as a merchant trader who blended rum amongst they were traders, they were grocers, but they also did a myriad of alcoholic products. And kind of the only one that survived really is Fullerton.
Right.
But it was very common to do back in my grandfather's day, they bottled all kinds of, and you can see a few, actually you can see a few remnants of them in Jamaica. They still do, or they did. And I think Campari stopped it. It was Ray and F used to do a cherry brandy.
Really?
Yeah, the cherry brandy. Yeah.
Now you have to understand that the cherry brandy involves no cherries or no brandy. Okay? which I imagine is why when Campari acquired, again, I don't want to speak for them, but I imagine when they acquired Ray and Nephew and saw this product and probably thought, oh my God, there's no selling this product. But
no
that
cherries,
was
no brandy, cherry brandy.
It's like the Holy Roman Empire of spirits.
Yeah, I mean, you went to the West Indies and you visited the islands in the 20s and 30s, and you went into where all the wholesalers were, and it's the same thing in Jamaica. Again, all the names are gone. The last one we have left is Ray and Nephew. Well, and Myers, but I mean, Myers doesn't exist as a company anymore. But all of these traders, Myers and Daniel Finzi and Edwin Charlie, and then over in Barbados is, we keep some names alive, S.A. Field and Alien Arthur, and all of them bottled a myriad of alcoholic concoctions.
Yeah.
What they could get their hands on, I assume, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's how you survived. I mean, you couldn't survive. That's what I'm saying. All of the historic blenders, they didn't sell just rum. It would be under, you sold. And I mean, some of them even in Barbados were bakers. So they were bakeries in the days when bakeries were little small, operations, not today big giant. And you see the same thing in Scotch whiskey. When you think of Johnny Walker and Mr. Doers and Mr. Ballantynes were all historic traders, and J. Ray and Nephew. I mean, Edwin Charlie started out his business. He actually did beer at one point. But he basically did what they called in his day aerated beverages, what you guys call a soda in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends, pop or soda.
How Edwin Charlie started.
Yeah.
And then he branched, then he did beer, and then he became a rum blender. And then he became, he bought plantations and he became a rum distiller. So there's a long history of that. So Ian and I had always had this, as I say, there was this liqueur project was lurking for some time.
When you guys have an idea like this, does someone just start throwing out names? Like, what is it? Like, Richard, do you go into the little book of ECS names? Do you pick from there?
Come on, Ian, you tell him because
wow.
Ian, the name is from Ian, so I'll remain.
So in regards to the oyster thing, I love reading history. I used to hate history in school, but ever since I got into alcohol and spirits, it's almost like a cohesion to the world, all these different historical stories.
Yeah.
So when we came up with the idea of doing a rum liqueur, grapefruit rum, it was going back to where was it planted? Was it actually a fruit? did it evolve from other fruits? As Richard said, this is probably one of the first citrus fruits that can be connected to the Caribbean as opposed to in Asia. And if we know of a lot of these guys, when they're bringing over, seeds and they're bringing over different types of fruits and plants, then they would cross pollinate, and next thing you know, it becomes something else over the course of time. So the grapefruit, as a lot of people think, especially in Florida, think, yeah, it's all from there, and that's how it was when it first came over. No, it's a hybrid of other fruits such as pomelos and sweet oranges,
Yeah,
and
Chaddock and what we call the sweet orange. Yeah, but tell them about the name. They
then the
want another
Caribbean,
name.
yeah, Barbados, it was called the shaddock.
No, to tell them our brand name. Come on. They want to
He's
know.
rushing you along, Ian.
Well, he's the one that came up with it. So,
but it was like, so where did the name Shattuck come from? And then looking inside some of the history of like the East India's companies and the fruits and the spices and the things that were planted and brought into Barbados, this historical figure. Now we don't know if he was real. He may have been real, may not be real. Historical figure connected to the fruit was a guy named, or would have been a guy named Chaddock with a C, as opposed to Shattuck.
we know Shattuck was. I'll get to that. Well, we know Shattuck was received. Yes.
Yeah, we know Shattuck with a C where it existed, but the actual fruit was always called by historians the Shattuck, as such, precursor to the grapefruit, and we felt that'd be a really nice name for a product, especially as a bartender who loves making cocktails with grapefruit, with rum. Traveling around the world, naturally, when people talk about daiquiris, they talk about the Hemingway. As such, so you need the grapefruit in there. But one of the other cocktails I'm quite jealous over that I see a lot of people making with tequila is the Paloma.
Yeah.
As such, yeah. And I've been making Palomas for the last couple of years with rum around the world, and people love it. They're like, oh, rum and grapefruit, it goes well. Not thinking that in Jamaica we've been drinking rum and grapefruit.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Shocker.
For years, as such. We just call it rum and ting. We don't say rum and grapefruit. We call it rum and ting, as such. So as a combination, as a pairing, it just made sense doing something like that. But also talking about the history, so giving it some prominence, some provenance as well, linking it all together. But when we talk about history and diving into the nooks and crannies, that's Richard's forte. All you have to do is give Richard a title, a name, that's something connected to history books, and he goes and starts to deep dive into this book here, that text there, and before you know it, he was coming out with the story, the timeline of the Shattuck and the grapefruit and the sweet orange and the pomelo. And all the things, like, wow, this is all great for me because these are the tools I need to then come out of ideas for drinks.
Give him the name. Give him the name. It's full title.
So the name of the actual product. Do we want to release the name yet?
Yes.
When's this podcast going?
Right. We've registered the trademark. Somebody can usurp it.
Oh, yes, true. So the product's going to be called Captain Shattuck.
Captain Shattuck.
All right, Captain Shattuck.
Captain
Shattuck's grapefruit rum liqueur.
Grapefruit
rum
liqueur.
I love it. We're taking back what the captain means in the rum world.
That was that. And you know, when Ian first, it's funny how names are, and this is how sometimes you do things, and it's sometimes most of the time with the names I come up with, you name pop. So when Ian pops this name, Captain Shattuck, you know, kind of my first reaction was, hang on a minute. Sounds a little cartoonish, and then it just grew, and that's when you know you have the right thing, because you have to have, and you know, if a name does that, that's what's going to happen out there.
Yeah,
and it's Captain Shattuck's grapefruit rum liqueur.
All right. Well,
Nice.
wait. What else can you tell us about this product? Because now we know the name, but I know it's got rum. I know it's got grapefruit in it. What else? What can you tell us?
It's got some good rum inside there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked to me. When you try it, you can be like, oh my goodness, drink this neat.
Yeah. So one of the challenges, Tristan Stevenson had it on his blog, one of the experts on citrus. One of the great crises that we have is citrus all over the world with the citrus greening disease.
Right.
So in Barbados, citrus is wiped out. It's devastated in Jamaica. Guyana, luckily, blessed with isolation for years, they're still successfully growing some citrus.
Hmm.
We are working on it here. We've been doing limes, but it's reached the point where you can only manage it. So we are, and the Shattuck is a little more resilient because primary ones are more resilient than the hybrids. So we are growing. Well, we're growing limes, but plans with Shaddocks and grapefruits. But initially we working with a UK flavor house. And what I liked about them was they were mostly developing for food. And I found that we were able to get a flavor that not just had the right flavor, but had the color and texture and so I kind of looked outside the box of the normal flavor suppliers. And then the other thing, which really just came by winning out, we're doing it with an aged rum. So typically, you do see liqueurs are usually made with very light, dare I say, neutral spirits.
Yeah.
And very much.
You can say neutral spirit.
I mean, that's most liqueurs. And of course, we want to make not a liqueur, but a rum liqueur. And so it's aged rum in there. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And
The clues are coming. You're just like giving us breadcrumbs here.
Well, it's, I'm not going to, I could bullshit.
Are we 40%?
There's some people who will bullshit you with, a very elaborate story, but sometimes the best stories are the simple ones.
Yeah.
And by the way, the grapefruits or pomelos, Shaddocks that Richard is going to be growing at Foursquare are not going to be the Shaddock going to be used in our initial blends.
No.
Blends. So I know you hear
In other
stories
words, we have an
Caribbean
incentive.
fruits being used in blends.
We have we're not one of those miracle people who can announce a product and then somehow magically in a year or two have hundreds of fruit. No, we will take a long, long time. But what it did is doing the project gave me an incentive because what we do at Foursquare is with sugar is always best with a lot of rotation and support. And also things support each other. So we're growing the lime trees and we're also growing guava trees, but the guava trees are there to protect the lime trees.
Yeah.
To help because the guavas are much more hardy to the disease and they tend to act. Not that there's anything wrong with growing guava, but so at Foursquare we've got quite a bit. We've got coconut, we've got guava, we've got lime, and of course we've got cane, and then we've got some various vegetables which we sell in the supermarket. So it's not uncommon for us to have some different things. So I mean we've got an incentive now to try to propagate some Shaddocks and grapefruits, but no, they would not be a direct link. I mean, that would be the dream of 20 years down the line. But so obviously we think the product's pretty good. The wonderful thing about it is the color is beautiful and it's all natural. So you're getting colors coming from the flavor, colors coming from the aged rum, and I had this. One of the reasons why people use neutral spirit, apart from the fact that they want the flavor to dominate, usually people are very nervous about sort of, mixing colors and something is unattractive, and we don't. So that was just, good fortune, really. But yeah, I mean, I suppose the other thing is what we're doing with it. It will be, we haven't settled on the final strength, but it'll be between 43 and 45.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. Well, I was kind of wondering, when I hear some type of citrus liqueur and I hear it's coming from Barbados, the first place my mind goes is falernum, which is typically like what is
11.
Lime, right?
Lime.
Yeah, and ginger and some other stuff.
The strength is like 20 or 15.
No, much lower. So because you have to understand, falernum does a whole another podcast. But you have to understand what was happening. If you look at the 17th century in Barbados, and we started in 1620, so I'm talking 1600s, and you're calling it 1627, but by mid-1600s, what we are exporting in great quantities is, of course, sugar, molasses, rum, and lime juice.
Oh, okay.
But what's happening in that part of the world is the birth of the Holy Trinity, which is mixing rum, lime, and sugar. But they are really mixing lime and sugar, which, of course, to someone in the 17th century who was never experienced sugar or citrus, this must be just...
It's quite the drink. Yeah.
This is why this is why we believe it's called Falernum, because Falernum has this reputation of the greatest of all wines. So sort of, and the rum's really just in there to preserve it. So not an alcoholic drink like what we would think today.
Interesting.
They drink it like a wine, which is why they also name it as wine. So today, we think today we drink sweet things, but believe me, they drank sweet things in the past. I mean, people didn't live much past 40 anyway, so they didn't really care too much about stuff. So they would drink very sweet things. And Falernum was drunk as a inexpensive wine, homemade wine. And so that's why the alcohol was never high. So with liqueurs, yes, you have a big variation in strengths. And the reason why we've gone with that strength is we want people to be able to straight swap it with a rum.
Oh,
so any recipe that calls for a rum, you can straight swap it with the grapefruit liqueur.
Huh.
Yeah, although a daiquiri, for example, or Hemingway, for example.
The challenge for the bartender, he's got all these liqueurs, but they're also weakening his drink.
Yeah. Well, now I was also thinking you could kind of use it. Well, maybe I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm presuming
we'll get some samples here.
you could maybe slot it in like you would use a curacao or something because that's usually like 40% ABV as well.
100%.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the flavorists, the guys at what's called, again, as Richard was saying, they are food. They specialize in food flavorings. Is when you taste the products. I took it around. I have with a friend of ours, Simon Ford, at one of his events recently in London, where he managed to coerce me to go behind a bar, even though he has a gin called Force Gin. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to go behind the bar and make some drinks for an hour or so." And I'm like, "I'll do it if I can put rum inside the cocktail." So naturally, I had a rum inside there and snuck in because everyone was like, "What are you doing behind the bar?" But I also used it as an opportunity to then sample the products to a lot of the influential people in the industry, and it was thumbs up from everybody. But the overwhelming thing everyone said when they tasted it was the length of the grapefruit flavor. They even got the pith in their mouth as well. And we're talking about like 45 seconds, nearly to a minute after they tasted the product. So you're right, as you said, it could also be used as like a curacao, as a flavorant, where you only use in a small amount, especially with a high proof, a small amount inside a drink, just because you want that grapefruit flavor to come through. But you may not want to use maybe either fresh grapefruit, or you may be basing the drink on a rum-based drink where you want to kill two birds with one stone. So it's a tool. It's a drink. It's liqueur. It's something that everyone can drink.
Because it's a liqueur, it is sweetened, as they say.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Right?
Never, Ian and I have never, and sometimes even people will look at some of the other products I do, like the spice rum or Falernum, and say, "I thought you don't add any sugar to rum." I do, but it becomes a different product.
Right.
And one of the things I sort of find out there is that people sort of accuse liqueur of being, don't name anything liqueur because it's old fashioned and you'll turn off people. And I'm like, no, sorry, I won't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Embracing it.
Right. As opposed to just saying this is a grapefruit rum. Right, because other people might do that, have added sweetening to it, and just call it a grapefruit rum, and you're making it clear by saying this is a liqueur.
Our identity.
It's a rum liqueur.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It is rum. It is sweetened. It is flavored. It is, it's for a different audience. When I say a different audience, it's a lot of bartenders will mix with it. The person who drinks it neat will probably not be someone who drinks a Hyester Jamaican rum neat. They won't necessarily.
Depends on the night. Depends on the night.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But that's
John, you're completely correct. Depends on the night, because I know there's going to be a couple of nights where we're going to see that bottle behind the bar. And one of the, and this reminds me too
one of the early motivations to, of course, in the West Indies, we get a lot of tourism, and this was before COVID. This is how long we've been thinking of this project.
Yeah,
And part of the
before
motivation
COVID.
were,
Jeez.
we get all these visitors and we think they should leave with more things, And of course, when COVID came, that just, that just destroyed the whole, let's develop duty-free products. Duty-free for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's an aged rum, you said. What can you tell us about the rum component?
So it's an age rum. So obviously, if I gave it to you, it would be a very classic Foursquare.
Yeah.
Column still brand. It's 3 years old. So it's not like Dirty 3, which of course is a different style, a very lighter style of rum. We did do some initial trials with Dirty 3 because we always felt, we were almost preconditioned thinking, liqueur, the rum has to be a lighter rum. And no, okay, it's not a big, super heavy-bodied rum, but it is a rum. It is a rum that you would very happily drink neat. And so again, it married, which only comes back to, yes, rum and grapefruit marries very well.
I don't want to get off of this too much, so if there's more to say about it, I definitely want to go. But we also have a lot of stuff we wanted to ask both of you. It's a rare occasion where we get both of you on the same time here, and there's a couple of things we wanted to go through. Let me kind of start and take off from collaborations in general, because you've both been a part of many collaborations. Richard, I'll start with you. That you've done a lot of collaborations over the years, right? Now, Real McCoy, Probitas, Equiano, as we mentioned, Velier all come to mind, and I'm sure that those are not the only opportunities that you've had to do partnerships. What is it that you're looking for, or a common thread between the ones that you go after?
Collaboration, bro.
Don't forget Tommy Bahama.
And Tommy Bahama, absolutely. How could I forget that one, Ian? Yes.
Yeah, lot of stories with that one. No, I mean, collaborations have come because at the end of the day, we're small. I mean, one of the things about today's, world where we have such great sort of communication. So, we have such a great rum community, and little brands like me are well known in our community. But at the end of the day, we're still very small, but it sort of creates a perception. We're bigger than we are. We're really microscopic in the grand scheme of things. Our collaborations are usually an opportunity where we can marry each other's strengths. So, I mean, even when you mentioned the Tommy the Hammer project, the amusing thing about that project was that was an American importer. They wanted to do a rum. They knew the American market. They were going to put money behind it. They wanted a producer. We had a relationship with them before that. So they came to us, but they chose, and again, because we don't know nothing about this, they chose to license it. So, a company like Tommy Bahama doesn't actually make anything. They license.
Right.
They are a seller of IP. Yeah, and they felt that was the way to go. And I must admit, when we first, because they approached us before they had actually completed the IP deal, the franchising. And I remember when I first heard it, I was not quite as excited as they were. But that was okay, because it was like, you're the experts in the American market. I'm not. I'll make the rum. If you guys tell me franchising Tommy Bahama is a great idea, I believe you. It's not my business. And so that's really, I'm glad actually Ian mentioned it, because it's a good illustration of, even though today it's sort of, we laugh at it, but it's a good illustration of how a collaboration can come about, because it's about bringing each other's strengths. As you say, Real McCoy, they came to me and they we have this idea. We want to celebrate this historical figure. It must be about this rum because he was famous, and we want to marry with a Foursquare authentic image. And so again, it's about, okay, the American market is too vast for us to handle on our own. So great, we'll have a partner on it. The Probitas Veritas was us small family distilleries. We speak to each other regularly. I'm very close with the guys in Jamaica, Hamden, and Worley Park, and it was born out of a visit I made there. I was the one that actually introduced Hamden to Velier. And then we had a lovely weekend at the Great House. And it was a case of, let's do something to help each other. Hamden, of course, is growing from strength to strength as a brand, but this is coming up 10 years ago,
Right.
let's do something. And that was how that was, mutual. And it's the same thing when I did the project with Nissan and Hamden, the Triple
Entente, yeah.
It was about, I'm very good friends with Gregory Fernand and Nissan. We speak regularly, and it was like, let's do something. And it's just about getting Gregory's people, try a Foursquare or a Hamden, and vice versa, my Foursquare people. So it's about helping each other, because we are really microscopic in the big world.
Gregory is still one of our white whale interviews for the Rumcast. You've introduced us in the past, but it hasn't come together yet. But we're every year or so we send another email. We try to get Gregory on the show.
Yeah,
so
he's got to be convinced that you are. Gregory's a lot like me, but much worse.
Okay, well, I think maybe you just need to do some more convincing on our behalf. Then is what it sounds like.
He is not. He doesn't do things easily. He's not. He doesn't beg to be marketed.
This is a multi-year effort. We have patience.
Right, exactly. You kind of got to earn his.
We're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, we've been learning French.
And that's
we need to work on our French.
He makes me look diplomatic.
This is why we need him on the show.
If you had Gregory and me, it'd be hilarious.
Okay. This is just coming together now. Okay. We'll get you at the same time. Maybe that'll make the idea more amenable to him. We talked a little bit about Probitas there, and real quickly before we move on, I've seen some rumblings of maybe something else coming out between you and Probitas. I don't know if you've talked about this publicly yet.
Yes.
So is this true? Is something else coming?
Yes, there's a line extension coming.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say any more about it?
Not too much.
Okay.
But it's coming. And that was also something. It was something that was discussed from early days, and it was something where I would kind of go from one to the other. So I would sometimes have it in my mind that Probitas must be a single product, because that is what it is. It's unique, it's special. It cannot have a range. This is part of its credibility.
That was John's reaction when we started talking about this.
Exactly what I said.
And then I would kind of mellow, and then I would go back and then mellow again. And there's some very good reasons why I have mellowed again, and some very good incentives why, and that's coming. But I don't want to. We'll save that for another.
We'll save that one. Okay, that's fair enough.
All right. Well, Ian, I want to turn to you also. So anybody that listens to this podcast, I know they are familiar already with a lot of what's happened recently. And I'm talking broadly here because I'm not really sure how much you're able to talk about things with what happened more recently with Equiano, and don't want to lead you into that if that's not a place we can go. But I do kind of want to ask you in terms of, collaborations and in the spirit of collaboration, how things are going now. Obviously, you have this new project now with Richard, which we're excited about. And then just generally talking about collaborations and maybe what's another thing that you would like to see coming. I feel like you're an entrepreneur in this area with some of the stuff that you've done. So, talking about it from that and just giving you the space also to talk about some of the stuff in the past, recent past as well.
Well, I mean, regards to the Equiano thing, but most people know, a lot of people know about the story and that type of stuff. And this is just a simple thing of, as I say, a simple case of not understanding or not not putting too much trust into your partners when they have the control over trademarks and licensings.
Yeah.
That's a learning process for anyone that sees it from the outside, and a learning process for me in the future. So that's one thing there. But again, when it comes to Equiano as a brand was a great name, but the thing that really pushed Equiano to that level was liquid inside. It wasn't so much the name, it was liquid.
Yeah.
And there's a guy on this call at the moment who actually put that blend together. So if a new African Caribbean rum comes out in the future, it doesn't have to be called Equiano, but it'll still be an award-winning tasting product. So that can always come up as another collaboration in the future. So as we say in Jamaica, soon come
Mm-hmm.
and watch this space. In
Mm-hmm.
regards to another delicious tasting rum that still captures the history of both elements, the African
There,
continent
there,
and the
there were
Caribbean region.
there were some other producers, as much as we love and admire Grays.
Mm.
I've admired them for a long time. There are some other producers on Mauritius that I particularly like.
Oh yeah.
Same.
And
Yes.
we're going to CAC. They were on that Criana, but not anymore.
Exactly. So yeah, so there's that space. But one of the projects I'm working on at the moment, which is a fun project, because I've been appointed Jamaican rum gatekeeper for a brand.
Gatekeeper.
Ooh.
All
For a
right.
brand. And the reason why is that I wanted to get involved in this because again I love a good story, love rums, but of course I love Jamaica. So got the opportunity to work with a brand that was existing. It was a decent brand as such, but again, it was connected to celebrities. And anytime you have celebrities connected to a brand, they're either hit or miss. And 99.9,
Mm.
99.9 reoccurring, they are missed as such.
Hey, you're a
Um,
celebrity.
More infamous, you mean? So yeah, so I decided, yeah. So when these guys approached me and they said, "Oh yeah, we'd love you to get involved here. We want to make the brand completely Jamaican." I'm like, "Yeah, but the guys at Foursquare connected to the brand have nothing to do with Jamaica." Until I discovered and found out that they had a lot to do with Jamaica, and they have a lot to do with recording an album there in 1972
Wait,
and
is this the
buying a house
Stones?
in Jamaica. And correct, exactly.
Ah.
Exactly. So that's a project. That's a project also I'm involved with at the moment. I've been helping out Rolling Stones new brand, or not new brand, old brand, but it's going to be a new iteration of the actual product, where we're doing
Ah,
something that hasn't been done before, and that's getting all of the distilleries in Jamaica to work together
Hmm.
under this one brand.
that's cool.
So it's a
So
true
last
crossfire. Yeah.
True Crossfire, correct.
Yeah. All of them.
So yeah, so we went to Hamden and we spoke with them. We were doing tastings with Dave Morrison from Appleton. So we're getting rums from not Appleton but from Yarmouth.
Hmm.
Okay.
As well, which they don't really release much rums
Yeah.
from there as such. So they're giving us rums for that particular blend. We're working with Worthy Park, so we were there doing tastings and filming there at Worthy Park and Monymusk
Mm-hmm.
as well. So we're trying to combine all of the distilleries. As you know, there's only 6 distilleries, four
Mm-hmm.
companies on the island. We're trying to combine rums in that particular blend to really tell the story of Jamaica rum as such. But not only that, but also tell the story of the Rolling Stones brand. So it's not a product going to be endorsed by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, although they have signed on the bottles. They're not going to be drinking the well. In fact, I tell a lie because Mick Jagger has had a bottle and he has auctioned it and raised about $20,000 for a charity in St. Vincent already.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
which was like a signed bottle. So they're quite happy to be involved in that particular way. But it's more of the Rolling Stones brand itself as opposed to the people, the guys behind the actual group. And it coincides with the fact that they're launching a new album this year as well. So
Wow.
that will help with a bit more PR and promotion. So yeah, so for me that's a fun project just because of the fact it gets me back to Jamaica. It gets me talking about Jamaica rum as such and combining and helping to create a product that is that is about appreciation as opposed to appropriation
Mm-hmm.
as such. So yeah, so that's again that collaboration thing where I'm trying to use a bit of my knowledge and expertise and tapping into my love and passion into a brand, and that hopefully gets released in about 2 months time, less than that. But again, that's more samples for you to try as well as the Captain Shattuck. You can have
Yeah.
like loads of these exclusive stuff. You've got the new Probitas as well. Oh, sorry,
That's
you haven't got
right.
the new Probitas yet.
No,
We
not
can
yet.
we
Soon-
can neither
soon
confirm
come.
nor deny there's a new
Right,
Global
right,
Rum,
right.
yeah.
But yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, and there's going to be more things like that coming up because again, I think the Equiano project has opened my eyes to a lot of things that I hadn't seen in the drinks industry, in the rum industry, and that type of stuff. And I've used the whole the whole process of the Ecuador thing is a great learning. It was school, it was university for me. Expensive university,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
was a learning.
It was
a
the
learning process for me.
Harvard of rum universities. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So now I've learned as much as, well, not as much as I'm still learning every day, but from that experience, I've now used that to actually put my mind forward to how I'm going to work with different companies. Richard,
Yeah.
again, the relationship me and Richard have, sorry, is great anyway. But Richard also put a piece of paper in front of me and said, right, this is how you should do it, Ian. And I'm like, you're so right. This is how a contract should be as such. And that's how our partnership is, and that's how our partnership always will be, and that's how I'm going to be doing partnerships with anyone else if I do work with anyone else in that respect. But for me, it's about having fun. It's about having fun. It's about telling the story of rum, the history of rum in all its guises, as such, and being as real as possible. So yeah, so there's a few other collaborations that are bubbling, but they haven't come to fruition yet. But that's the most immediate one coming up. The Crossfire Hurricane Jamaica rum soon come, quite soon.
Yeah. Well, like Richard said, a collaboration should make both make sense for both and make them both better, right? So that sounds interesting. I have to say, like,
Yeah.
had you told me,
together.
yeah, had you told me 5 years ago that you all were coming out with a grapefruit rum liqueur and going to be involved with this amazing product from Jamaica with Crossfire Hurricane, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But now you've sold me on it, and now I'm in. I hear where you're going with this, and I actually think it's a kind of a cool idea. It's something Will and I talk about a lot. Is about we're obviously the rum geeks, the rum enthusiasts, right? And people who listen to this show are rum enthusiasts. But we also try to spread the love and spread the story of rum. And sometimes you have to get a little on the boundaries to do that.
You have to, yeah. I mean, because remember, the rum audience out there. There's no stereotypical rum audience. There are the different types of rum drinkers out there, and all we really want to do is provide a private understanding of what rum can be and what it is. Whether you're doing the exceptional cask range straight from the barrel with a straw, like I try and do before Richard kicks me out of his distillery, or you're going down, you're doing an 80 proof what's called tasty rum that someone's going to say, oh, this is absolutely delicious because I didn't think rum could taste like this because I always thought rum was sweetened with sugar and that type of stuff because the stuff that's being sold to me. No, you can have an unsweetened rum from Jamaica that's 80 proof that doesn't punch you in the balls like maybe an LROK does or a DOK. As such, but you're still going to say, "Oh, it's actually delicious," and that's a different style of rum drinker as such. So, as long as the message about rum is being passed on to them, and they know exactly what they have inside their glass, and yeah, enjoy what you like, but as we always say, know what you're drinking.
No, I mean, you know, the permutations out there of rum drinkers, you know, so you have the nerds who might have, all the heavy hitters on their back bar, but it doesn't mean they don't mix a cocktail in between.
Of course.
100%.
A lot of them that do exactly that.
Oh, yeah.
Or when you have friends that come over that are not as heavy into rum as you and you try to blow their face off, it doesn't always work.
Correct.
So,
the nerd, I can imagine the nerdiest of the nerds with all the heavy hitters will still, hopefully have a bottle of Captain Shattuck. He might get through it as fast as maybe the very casual rum lover who, likes to bring it home and just only drink cocktails. It'll probably get through. There'll be a bigger audience. But, there's every kind of permutation out there.
Yep. I'm going to write the theme song for Captain Shattuck. I feel it coming.
Yeah, we're looking
Captain Shattuck. It's coming. It's coming. It's bubbling, like Ian says. Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, even the nerdiest enthusiast, like I consider myself a nerdy enthusiast. I'm drinking, and I'm not just doing this to kiss ass right now, but I just thought it was appropriate for the interview. I'm drinking R.L. Seale's 86 proof right now.
Yeah, nice.
I don't always want something that's going to be 120 proof or whatever. I want something that's easy to drink sometimes, but still well made and delicious. So, there's an occasion for every rum.
It's a drinking rum. The RSL
a session rum. It's a session rum.
The drinker is made
Ian,
to
you
be
taught
drunk.
me that.
Exactly.
Not to be sipped and then put back on the shelf and then bring back out with your friends and put it back on the shelf and bring a cigar out and then bring it back out. Those are great as well. But there are times when you need a session rum where you open that bottle and that lid, you might have to throw the lid away. Don't bring it back. That bottles need to be finished. There it is.
Ian, I wanted to ask a couple of different things. So we talk as rum enthusiasts to a lot of rum fans, and obviously at Rum Congress. I was just at the Miami Rum Congress, and it feels like sometimes there can be things that are over-indexed by rum enthusiasts, like fermentation length, cask strength ABV, super high ester counts that feel like they're also indicators of quality now as opposed to just certain things. So I want to kind of ask you, and I know I was leading in a little bit there, but what are your thoughts on, like, has the pendulum swung too far towards, a high ester obsession or cask strength high ABVs, or is there room for that? What do you think about all of that?
First thing I would say is echo chamber,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm very, very lucky that the position I'm in, where I get to travel around and see a multitude of different types of rum drinkers, whether they're the novice, the casual rum drinkers, up to the geeks. And the geeks, of course, are the ones who make the most noise. So sometimes we can be in this arena and we'll think that, oh yes, everyone's into the high esters, everyone's into barrel strengths, and everyone's into that, and forgetting that there is a lot more people drinking the other rums, the rums that we may have started on our journey drinking. So we can't forget about these guys. So it's nice hearing when people do have these conversations, but when it becomes obsessive, that's when I do laugh when I hear something like Richard, when people ask Richard questions like that about his rums and that type of stuff, and he was like, "Well, why do you need to know?" For me to know, just enjoy
Wait,
the
that
rum.
bad.
That's why he described himself as a rum maker, not a master distiller, not a master blender, as such. It's about what you have inside your glass, and so some people get so into that, and it's funny because I was this Polish guy. We was at a rum festival in Poland, the Rum Love, and he was laughing at me. He's like, "Ian, you're not a real Jamaican." I'm like, "Why?" He says, "Because you don't drink LROK, you don't drink DOK." I'm like, "Have you ever been to Jamaica?" He'd never
Yeah.
been to
No one
Jamaica
in
before.
Jamaica
I'm
does
like,
either.
Jamaicans don't
Yeah.
drink that. Jamaicans don't drink that.
The
That was
audacity
made
of
for
someone to
guys
tell you
on the
that is
continent.
crazy.
Yeah, that was made for you guys on the continent. I mean, if I gave you a Scotch bonnet to chew on, you would scream and you would die because it would burn your mouth out. But
Yep.
I tell you what, using a little tiny bit of that Scotch bonnet inside to rub on the chicken or rub on the pork or rub on the fish
Absolutely.
and marinate it and let it integrate with the flavors of the meats or the fish that you're cooking, then yeah, it works. And that's how these rums work, as such. But what's happening now is, yes, you will go to the rum festivals, you will go to some of these rum conferences and things like that, and you will have the same like-minded people around one bottle or one table or one stand, and they'll have the same conversations. But they are a they are a minority in people that actually drink that beautiful spirit that we call rum, as such. And that's why I don't use the term sipping rum. As such, for me, any rum can be sipped. When people say to me, "What's your favorite sipping rum?" as a joke and a laugh, I'll say it's Ray and Effie overproof. They're like, "What? Firewater?" I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. So you're telling me I shouldn't drink that rum? I should be able to sip that rum just because you can't sip it?" Any rum can be sipped. Any rum
Yeah.
can be enjoyed. I agree, but it doesn't define the category. So when people do get into this high ester and it has to be this and has to be cask strength, yeah, fine, not a problem, not a problem. But don't use that to either look down on other people that may not want to drink that style of rum, or do not use it to define rum as a category. There's too much rum. It can't be pigeonholed into one word or in one phrase. It's
Or
so
as
much
they
more
call
than
it, a
that.
laundry list of specifications.
Mm.
It's yeah, it's
No,
so yeah.
it's a
So
great,
you do get that in these
it's a
shows.
great question, and I hope you don't mind me talking in on it because I get this reputation where I see this word thrown around, transparent, and it bugs me because I want to be an authentic producer, and obviously GI would show you the rules and no sugar and all this bullshit. But the word transparent is not what I want to be. I want to be authentic and the reason for this is we love spirits because of the mystery.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
there. I mean, and I can tell you when I produce a one, very old spirit, wonderful. Do I know why it's come out the way it's come out? Of course I don't. Um, and so this idea, I want to keep some of that mystery. So I put on the label what I think needs to be there. I put on the label rum, or in the case of Captain Shannon liqueur, I put on the age because I'm charging you a lot of money. You need to see. I
That's
put
the
on
reason
pot
why we're
still,
charging it. Yeah.
because again, I'm charging a lot of money. You need to know there's pot still in there. And so I put what I think is important for your buying decision. But I'm not going to put a laundry list of I fermented it for 72 and 3/4 hours and I distilled it, because and it's also, and to Ian's point, I've been at these stores on the other end of the table, and the guys will come around with their little notebooks and they'll ask me all these questions. What did you ferment out? What do you distill out? What do you do? And the part hurts me when I'm given this information, and the nerds, and I'm going to give them, because they say I'm not as bad as Ian said, but it worries me, it bothers me, because I know that when they take away these 10 or 6 or 8 stats or whatever, they're going to misinterpret them.
Yeah.
What's a way to misinterpret?
Well, they're going to admit their importance, or their, even come back.
This is good because the fermentation length.
Yeah,
was X.
but even take something like the chemical analysis. You go and you get a chemical analysis. I could show you 2 chemical analyses for rum and a whiskey, and you can't tell which one is which, because we're only analyzing a 6 or 8 common parameters. There's hundreds of compounds in there. We can smell and taste at a more sensitive than the typical equipment being used. Flavor science is vastly more complex than distillation chemical engineering. Because a component can have a certain aroma, and in the presence of another component have a different aroma, and it's incredibly complex. So the idea that you can break something down to a laundry list. Having said that, the Renaissance distillery in Taiwan, lovely people, love their rums. They came out with that brilliant label. I think it's great because they're small. They're like, look at me. This is clever.
They need to stand out.
Not knocking them.
Is that the Renaissance?
Yeah.
The fabulous label with every.
But the thing is with the Renaissance guys, they know their audience. They are.
That's true.
Looking for those people in the top.
Yeah,
they're echo chamber.
I'm microscopic. They're even more microscopic.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right.
So don't please interpret what I'm saying as a criticism. If I was in their shoes, I thought that's a brilliant idea. But no, I do not like when people come to me at the show and they got their little notebook and they're taking every single detail to a number, and I just think this is awful.
So if I ask you, just how much, what's the percentage of pot still rum in this Foursquare pot and column blend? That's a question.
Ask Richard how many plates in his column.
I might tell you that. But they're broader questions. So, for example, instead of obsession of fermentation time, you can ask me something much more broader. Is this natural fermentation or is this added yeast fermentation? That's important. Is this pot or column distilled? In other words, there are valid questions. It's just when you take it to this level, you're only to fool yourself.
Right. And there is some, when it comes to what's on the bottle also, we have to remember the context, right? Which I know you all know very well, which is that you're on a shelf with 80 other products that are not on the up and up. So there is some validity there to having some of that information be indexed by people who might know a little bit more to what to look for. There is obviously, a diminishing, return there.
And you can get yourself in trouble with labels. So when I first released the Foursquare rums, I put on the back, I think I used to put no sugar or other sugar. No thing or other sweetener. No sugar or other sweetener added. And I got in trouble in 2 ways. It's absolutely comical. One person read it and thought I'd added other sweeteners.
Yeah.
So no sugar or other sweetener added. So they just read those last 3 words and they wanted to know what other sweetener I'd added.
Yeah.
And then eventually I thought, I've got a mature audience, my brand, we do our Foursquare releases, they sell very well. And I thought, I'm taking that shit off. I make rum, that's enough. I write word rum on it. I don't want to write this what I consider to be super. Well, then I start getting emails. We noticed you dropped no sugar added. Does that mean that the sugar
can't win?
No, you can't win.
So John and I had this same debate because we
did.
we did a very small. We bought 2 casks last year from our friends in Liverpool and released those. And so we had to come up with our own label, right? And we had, we've been very transparent, to borrow that word, on the podcast of
and authentic. And authentic.
Both of us prefer rums that don't have something added to them, and we're all for disclosure of those things. Yeah. However, I was coming from the perspective of, on a label, if you say no sugar, no additives, it almost suggests to people the expectation that there should be additives in this, or maybe there are additives, right?
That I'm making some diet version of
it's a double-edged sword,
correct.
Right?
That's why I dropped it.
It's rum zero.
Beginning, when it's topical, I better put it on. But now we're a little mature. I've got my regular audience. They're buying.
Yeah,
I'm gonna drop it.
They know, and that's what I felt like. Our listeners are buying.
I don't want it. I don't want to write no sugar added.
I don't. Rum. Yeah, it to me it makes the product look cheaper, right? To have that on there.
Or I'm got some kind of gluten-free rum. I'm making some special, for a particular audience. No.
Yeah. And it kind of I will say it bit us in the ass to an extent, because one of the rums that we bottled was a Guyana rum, and Guyana has a particular mark that has the Rev mark, which has a higher degree of caramel added to it or something like that.
Inside the barrels.
And ours was not this mark. But a reviewer mistook and thought ours was the Rev mark, and they said, this does have additives that wasn't disclosed. And we had to reach out and say, first of all, it's not that mark. There's no additives. We would have disclosed it if there, but because we didn't have that on the bottle, then it became this whole thing, and it was like, yeah, it's
what
tough.
A pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass. It's really tough.
I had a scenario where a website, an online website, listed one of my Valier Foursquares as having color added.
Yeah.
And a reviewer wrote a review, and he writes in the review, looking at the color, it's obvious caramel is. Of course, he's not added. He just saw that and tried to be clever.
Oh, Richard, one of my long, personal campaigns on the podcast has been we need an official Foursquare website. Because sometimes I have to look up things about Foursquare rums, and I end up, cross-referencing 5 different review sites trying to get. So, we need the single source of truth out there. The people are crying out for it. I'm just waiting for you to make the first move.
Well, that's a long story, and I get a lot of hassle on that.
I think you're talking to the wrong Seale there.
Yeah. I need to talk to Christian about this, or Gail, maybe.
No, not even Christian. It's the boss. You have to speak
Definitely
to the
Gail.
boss.
Yeah.
Gail.
On the note of Foursquare.
There's Gail. See, there's the boss.
Yay! Hi, Gail.
Hey, Gail. Please grab a seat. Richard, I know we didn't want to make this. We didn't want to make this the focus of the episode, but we have been getting a lot of questions, as I'm sure you have, about what I think is one of the cornerstones of the rum world over the past 6, 7, 8 years, which is the ECS series. We've seen Penultimus, we've seen Epilogue. People know at this point that
You've
it's
tipped
going.
your hat.
People know at this point that it's going away, and the 2 questions I hear are A, why, and B, what's next. So it would be a dereliction of duty if we didn't bring those up at all on while we have you here.
My son, the other boss was like, "Wow, you can't keep this thing forever. You gotta, that was about 10 releases ago." So we've always thought it cannot go on forever. But I was devastated when I was reading and people thought, well, yeah, we're just going to be out of the age rum. Super age rum business.
Right, yeah. There's no more long-aged Foursquare coming out?
Yes.
What's the deal?
So, we will continue. But it'll be a different series.
A different series, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But so
it's actually
more exceptional.
So one of the things that happened, if you go back far enough, you'll remember the exceptional series. We had quite a bit of variation. So we would do a vintage at a sort of certain price. We would do red series at a lower price, and then we would do kind of the 14s, and then some of the when we did the first purple one, that was like Nobiliary.
Nobiliary, yeah, I think so.
Yep.
And that was, I can't remember, but it was more than the 14. And so this was actually then starting to cause a bit of problem because what would happen is the store might get, and it really came to head actually with Indelible, where Indelible came out lower price, lower proof. And
Yeah, it was great.
distributors
Drinking
and
rums.
retailers just said,
Drinking
no, we
rums.
put in the price of the last one. And so you may have noticed that more or less all of the last releases have been in the same zone.
Yeah.
It just clicked into place for me. Okay. All right. Keep going.
And so the new series will be in the zone.
Got
Okay.
it.
Yeah, because that did, we had no idea what was going to come next with ECS. It's been a wonderful success, and we did those red series, and it would come out to bite us because somebody would remember the price of the 9-year-old 40% port cast and say,
Yep.
wow, you guys raised your prices. And it's like, excuse me, compare the 16-year-old Mandamus with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people
At
forget
65%
how long most of
ABV.
these things
Yeah.
are. Forecasters came up more than 10 years ago. There has been some inflation in those 10 years,
Yeah. Well, and like you
doesn't
said, it was
cost me, when I distill, forecast, I pay a lot more to distill. So, yeah, and I realized, and so we, everything we've done has been done so innocent because we're so small, so we don't know. If we were a big corporation, this would have been well planned, and there never would have been 3 different varieties of PCS. But being little, we make well, they only become mistakes. They're not mistakes in the beginning, but you get a problem then where you just can't come out with a 16-year-old Mandamus and then follow it up with a 10-year-old 43%. You just can't.
Well, and one of the things John and I've, we've been privately speculating on the podcast about this stuff for a while, and
or not so privately, maybe sometimes,
or not so publicly speculating, I should say. But throughout the life cycle of the ECS, as we stopped seeing things like the premises, the indelibles, the slightly lower ABV, more accessible price point,
the drinking rums,
the drinking rums,
or even 2004.
We saw more things like Doorley's 14 at 48% ABV, for example, which to me approaches that wheelhouse of some of those lower ABVs. So to me, there's
more. For example, Indelible, we were seeing it out in the market priced higher than Doorley's 14.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so I realized I had to move away. And, and then as I say, you get this backlash in the pricing. And, as I had to point out, the last 3 and the next 2 are all at the same price because they're all in the same zone.
Right.
So, we've not sat back here and said, oh, Foursquare is popular, let's just move up the price. What we've done is move up what we've offered. There's
a lot of components there of what you're saying, and part of that is demand, and that's part of a market, right?
You have a
limited product.
You have these internal discussions that, we have lost some of those people who are just like, I really loved, 10-year-old Criterion, and I paid X for it, $8 or $90, whatever. And then, they don't necessarily want to buy 16-year-old Mandamus.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And it's fine and it's not fine. It's fine. We understand the decision, but who likes to lose a customer?
Yeah. Right. But the point there is, as a rum geek myself, I still want some of those high cask strength, long aged offerings. I want those to be available. I want to be able to buy those, but I don't always want to drink that, to what Ian was talking about earlier, right? So sometimes I do want to go, and I'm fortunate that I have a few of those still left somewhere in my cabinet, but not everybody does, and I can't go buy another one of Indelible. Even if I found it today somewhere by some chance, it's going to be very expensive by virtue of the fact that it's now
scarce,
very difficult to find, right? And there hasn't been a follow-up release of a similar nature. So it sounds like, there's room for both avenues here.
Yeah.
So as I say, when we break off to the series will come off very consistent with what you've seen me doing.
Okay.
Those higher zone releases, same price level of those higher zone releases. But yeah, I got a lot of rum.
When are we going to see the cane juice into the blends, Richard?
The cane juice is in blends.
It's in blends already. Yeah.
Ones that are on the market?
Yeah.
But it's not on the label? You're not breaking it down for everyone?
No.
Ooh.
Is one of my
authentic Barbados rum.
one of my reasons for bringing cane juice back in was to reblur those lines.
Yeah.
So, because one of the great canards out there as well is this idea that rum's from molasses, and French rum is from cane juice, and there's this boundary, and of course this is nonsense. There is a truth to it because one, obviously, in the modern era, we've moved to molasses, and two, yes, the vast majority out there, because don't forget, obviously the big dominant guys out there like the McCartys and Captain Morgans and that are obviously just molasses. But historically, there was never this division, even in Barbados, and certainly not in Jamaica. I mean, in Jamaica, distillers often made directly from juice because
even today,
very unusual place in that they didn't get a lot of money for their sugar, but they got a lot of money for their rum. I remember with I think it was the 1897 Royal Commission. Things were really bad in West Indies, beet sugar and sugar prices collapsed, and they're doing this review, and literally they write, improving the mill efficiency in Jamaica is of no value whatsoever because it's all going to rum. So it doesn't matter.
If you go to Hamden today, you'll see the massive tanks where they only age or rest, I should say, for a couple of weeks. Cane juice.
Yeah.
I mean, cane juice is
recipe.
part of every single Jamaica rum you drink. Well, okay, were the part also like us brought the cane juice kind of back later, but every single Appleton you ever drunk, almost certainly, okay, maybe there might have been, you don't know all their formulas, but cane juice is part and parcel of rum making in Jamaica. And so, when we resurrected Foursquare, we were this kind of oddity in that we resurrected an estate, but didn't resurrect link to the estate. We built a distillery on an estate and ran it like a modern distillery of bringing in molasses. And of course, we still do that. But my long-term dream was always to restore that link and reblur. So you will never see me write on a label cane juice or molasses.
Molasses and cane juice blend. We won't see that.
I make rum from sugarcane.
Okay. So,
and if you went 100 years ago and asked somebody about, a little more than 100 years ago, and you went to Barbados and Jamaica and you spoke about molasses rum or cane juice rum, and they'd look at you, lost your mind.
All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast, part 1 of our 2-part episode mini-series with Richard Seale and Ian Burrell. Stay tuned for part 2. As we said, that'll be coming out the following week, so that'll be showing up sooner than usual. Keep your eyes peeled as we get into everything else from our conversation. If you're excited about anything you heard in this episode, if you have any questions, things that we didn't answer that were brought up in this episode that you're seeking answers to, send us an email. Let us know. host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can find us on social media. John, where can they find us?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. That's TheRumcast. Just, wanted to spell it this time for whatever reason.
Right.
Just in case that was the thing, Will, that was holding people back from joining.
The damn spelling.
Yeah. They put a little space there somewhere that there shouldn't be a space. And, so that's important.
It's all one word. Thorumcast.
Thorumcast. Exactly. Yes. So, very important after 6 years of doing this that we get that spelling right. So, yeah. Look us up on there and, like Will said, drop a comment, leave a question. Let's make sure we're very thorough at the Rumcast here.
Exactly. All right. Before this gets out of hand, I think we need to cut this episode off. So let us know your thoughts, your questions, your comments. We look forward to hearing all of them, and we'll be back for part 2 soon. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.